What's up, everyone? Welcome into the All 22 NFL Show, the official channel of the All 22 Fantasy Football platform, the only fantasy football game with full 53-man rosters, including offensive linemen, where you get to choose personnel packages and have access to PFF grading and advanced stats to make decisions each week. To learn more and sign up, go to all-22.com. Ray, there is something happening this weekend that we had participated in for 3 years in a row. This would have been year 4. And unfortunately, we're not making it. But I want to give them a shout out because what they've been doing, Bob Lung and the rest of the team at the Fantasy Football Expo, has been nothing short of amazing, right? In Canton, Ohio, if you were available, if you're local to Ohio or even, close to that region, I highly suggest, and if you're not, jump on a plane, go out there, right? Like in Ohio, in Canton, Ohio, right at the Hall of Fame, is the Fantasy Football Expo, where you are going to have the opportunity to meet some of the best in the industry, because we won't be there. So the rest of the best, I should say. People that run shows like this, people that have fantasy football platforms, the best analysts, just amazing people, right? We've made basically all of our friends in the fantasy world at the Expo, in terms of like, not obviously players, but like people that have their own platforms. Like all of our friends are from that. So we really appreciate everything that they do. And obviously we would have loved to have been there, but just can't do it this year, unfortunately. But it is this weekend. So people, if you haven't bought a ticket yet, go out there, go to the fantasyfootballexpo.com to buy a ticket and go check it out. There's a lot of great people there. By the way, we are the last ever flag football champions. I don't think they're doing it this year. So honestly, like that might be a good reason for us to have not gone, is because we can't really like defend our title. So it's just like you win and you just kind of end it there. Sometimes like when I want to piss off Bobby and we're playing a game, if I win, I just say, yeah, I'm done. I'm not playing anymore, because it gets under his skin, because he like needs a chance to beat me. So
you still play games like 30 something years old? You just like,
you don't play games.
What kind of games? It sounds like you're playing like Duck Duck Goose.
No, like arm wrestling,
arm wrestling. Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Like, I don't know, pick up basketball. You don't play pick up basketball?
Yeah, one-on-one? No, it's been a pretty long time since I just like went outside with one other person and said, let's play pick up basketball against each other.
That's a shame. That's a shame, and it shows your lack of creativity and just kind of like, I think everybody has an inner child. You're just not feeding yours. Yours is
I
dead.
just play full court fives. I'm not scared of, the highest competition.
Who plays full court fives? That's honestly like the lamest thing ever. You play half court threes because we're old men and can't run up and down. Ray, tell me your favorite memory of the Fantasy Football Expo.
Beating a Pro Bowl wide receiver in flag football and making the game-winning catch to do so. And like would have been the game-winning interception if not for getting pushed off. They did call OPI. So there's that too.
That's your favorite memory?
One. I think so. Or meeting Bob, because Bob is awesome. Bob Lung, like you mentioned. Bob is great. The people there are great. So, but that's not one memory. That's like a collection of experiences. So it's like if I say, oh, my favorite memory is meeting this guy, then it's like I'm just excluding all the other really cool people that are at the Expo. So,
all right. Well, I'm going to give you mine.
One memory is that.
Mine is from this past year. We kind of had a fun little challenge where we said, we're going to just ask anybody that comes to our booth if they can name the offensive linemen, the starting 5 offensive linemen for their professional team that they're fans of. Thinking we're at a Fantasy Football Expo, a lot of the people there going to be into like traditional fantasy. Maybe they're not like, super into it. We figured like the people that can name their starting 5 linemen are obviously people that should be playing all 22. Every single person nailed it. Every single person nailed it. And I was just so impressed with the community. And again, it's the reason why that event is so great, because you really do have like the most intense fans showing up to this thing. And it's just, again, it's super, super fun. So again, go there, sign up if you haven't yet. But Ray, we had football this past Thursday, a week ago from today, Chargers, Lions. Obviously it was a week ago. We don't need to go into too much detail into it, but you had mentioned maybe that there were some players that were either worth highlighting or saying, they had a great game, they had a bad game. So I want to give you the opportunity to do that.
Well, I think we're in draft season, really startup draft season, but also rookie draft season for leagues that have been ongoing. for a couple of years now. And so a lot of well, first off, let's just get this out the way. Like, yes, Trey Lance, it was nice to see him do well in a preseason game. Everybody just calmed down. Like, yeah, it's a cool clip that he was like getting pumped up, but like it was still a preseason game. It's like a week 0 preseason game, and it's Trey Lance. Like, this is what happens. Like, relax.
Did you see the Sam Monson tweet? Because he has the best Trey Lance tweets. Did you see the one after that game?
No, what did our guy say? What did our guy Sam say?
That even after that game, Trey Lance through high school, college, the NFL preseason and regular season games still has less snaps in that amount of time than Patrick Mahomes had last season.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. And he's young. He's still, isn't he like younger than Bo Nix or something, or like close to it? Yeah. So I get it. But everybody calm down. All right. I mean, he is on his third team and played extensive minutes in a week 0 preseason game. So relax. And that's not me throwing shade because I'm rooting for Trey Lance. He's awesome to root for, but let's just all chill out.
Shade. You're kind of throwing shade.
I'm just going to keep going then. So the other name that I think people were really excited about was Oronde Gadsden, the tight end for the Chargers, the rookie tight end who, I get it, everyone's kind of starving for young, especially tight ends, because that position has been pretty thin for a while, young weapons to really just kind of assert themselves and show up and make themselves legitimate options for your all-22 team, your fantasy team, or just in general, just in the NFL, because we want to see more of that. But Will Dissly in 5 snaps kind of stole the show. And I think just kind of made everyone tap the brakes a little bit of like, hey, yeah, sure, he's young, he's athletic, him being Gadsden. But Dissly's a guy who's been around the block. He's an all-around complete tight end, which is something that Jim Harbaugh in particular values quite a bit. So everybody slow down on the Oronde Gadsden hype. And then also Keandre Lambert-Smith caught the touchdown there.
No. We're going to pause. We're going to pause. And
we're going to talk about... I said Will Dissly, so of course you want me to pause and continue
because
talking.
Thank you. Because I've been trying to throw Will Dissly into conversations. Like, I'm talking to a lawyer and I'm just like, Will Dissly? And he's like, what? Right? Like, Will Dissly is a dude and is too good to be playing in a game like that, just to be honest with you, right? Like, he's like, those kind of players typically don't play in the Hall of Fame game. But it just, again, it shows the difference between true greatness and guys that are trying to compete to make rosters. And Will Dissly is true greatness.
Yeah, sure. That's what you should take away from this, that Will Dissly is true greatness and not that we should exercise patience by any means. But yeah, so everybody slow down on that. I think Will Dissly, legitimate option for you as a tight end 2, perhaps in all 22 because of the well-roundedness of his game overall. Steady type of guy. He's not going to win you the week, but he's probably not going to lose you the week either. Keandre Lambert-Smith was the rookie wide receiver that everybody was talking about. Touch on him briefly. He's a second-round talent, fell to day 3 because of other things. But when you're a rookie in the NFL and you start sort of at the bottom of the rung there, you tend to, sort of either adapt and get your stuff in order, or you're out of the league pretty quickly. And so if you do adapt and get your ish in order, away from the field and everything else, and sort of focus wise and all that other stuff, as far as your approach goes as a professional, then your talent begins to show out. So we'll see if that continues, or again, if it's just an athletic day 2 type of talent at wide receiver, simply going up against other types of players who end up playing in the Hall of Fame game and not much else. But really good start for Keandre Lambert-Smith. Obviously, you have Trey Harris at wide receiver as well, and then Ladd McConkey from the year before. And this is a primarily run-oriented offense. So again, is that really a name for 2025? No, but an athletic type of stowaway name to stash for the future. I think that's something to just file away, Keandre Lambert-Smith. And Zion Johnson at center went okay. I know that's a transition that's taking place this summer, and a lot of people have a lot of concerns about how he can man the pivot there and really sort of deal with stunts in different games up front, and his vision overall from that spot. I think that's still a work in progress, but not a bad start overall for Zion Johnson as well. And hey, this is still a former first-round pick at a position now that's really sort of lacking depth in the NFL overall. So a lot of people would root for someone like Zion Johnson to become a viable option there at center. But I think it's going to take some time, but a decent start overall, snap notwithstanding, in the first drive for Zion Johnson.
So there are 3 games tonight. I thought it might kind of be fun to talk about some players that we can watch out for. We're excited to watch. But so tonight, 7 p.m. Nice. We have the Colts and the Ravens. Why don't you start it off? Tell me which guys, if you have like one for each team, that you're excited to see in this game.
Colts Ravens. Adonai Mitchell supposedly has been stepping up in scrimmages and last week of camp or so, making some big plays. He had a pretty average preseason last year and just obviously a down year or disappointing year overall. And it's not that we're necessarily expecting a big passing game from the Colts as a whole this year, but show me a spark. I mean, the whole read on Mitchell was that he was big, he was fast, he was athletic, and he can make plays downfield, which then in theory adds a higher ceiling to that on the outside than someone like an Alec Pierce or even a Michael Pittman Jr. And people could argue with me about that all you want. I'm probably lower on Michael Pittman Jr. than most. And it's not that I don't like him. I just think people try to really wedge him in like that top 16 type of conversation. I just don't think he's there quite yet. And I'm not sure he has that next level ceiling to really get there as a player. In theory, Mitchell has that ability, but hasn't necessarily put it all together. And so I think overall, while you don't want to take too much away from preseason and the numbers bear that out, when you're a second-year player, I do want to see you just kind of step up there and show that you are a rung above everybody else when it comes to this type of setting.
Adonai Mitchell was going to be mine, so I'll pivot, right? I'm pivoting on the fly here. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch the interior offensive. There's a fly in my face. The interior offensive line of the Colts, who, you know, they lost their starting center, their starting guard. Will Fries is center, right? So like Tanner Bartolini is the center that got some time last year and is going to be stepping into the starting role. And Matt Goncalves, I don't know how to say his last.
Come on, man.
I don't know how to say these names. Anyway, those are 2 guys for me that stand out where if the Colts are going to be successful this year, to me, it starts in the offensive line because that was always their strength, right? Like that always kind of kept them above water. When you were looking at the Colts and deciding whether or not this was going to be a playoff team in the future, you kind of said, well, they at least have the offensive line. Can they figure out the stuff around it? But as they start to lose these guys and some of the older guys start to get a little bit older, like a Quentin Nelson, can they maintain that as their strength? And to be honest, I think they really need to if Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones is going to have any success this year.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. So you hate to see some of the other areas of that team erode before they get a chance to figure out the quarterback position. It's just unfortunate, but those windows in the NFL are fleeting. So you have to take advantage when you can. And if you botch quarterback position, that's going to happen.
All right, Ray, can you guess who I was planning on saying for the Baltimore Ravens?
No, because I didn't pick anybody for the Baltimore Ravens, but it's probably an obvious name that I'm missing.
So there was somebody that I was going to say, but they're out with injury. So I pivoted to Malachi Starks. If we get to see Malachi Starks today,
generic.
Everybody else is hurt that I would have wanted to see. It was easily going to be Emory Jones, but he's not playing.
Yeah.
So, sorry, we'll take a pass. But Malachi Starks is going to be super fun to watch. I think he's going to look like that separator in terms of like talent tonight. Like we're going to see a guy that's like, he shouldn't be out there with these guys. Like he is that level of good in my opinion. So I'm excited to see him. Okay. The second game we have tonight starts at 7:30. It is Bengals and Eagles. There's a bunch of guys in this game too that I think are really intriguing, but if there's anybody you want to shout out, let me know.
DJ Turner's entering year 3. And he suffered a collarbone injury last year when he was really kind of starting to turn a corner as a player. Had a good game, then injured, I believe, against the Chargers. Supposedly, he also has been fantastic in camp. I kind of want to see if that's just like Twitter propaganda or if that's actually legit. So if he plays, again, young player, getting some reps. I want to see him as a cut above the standard sort of baseline week 1 preseason player that you see out on the field for multiple snaps. So DJ Turner, that's what I have my eye on for Cincy. I don't know if you want someone for the Bengals or I just keep rolling with my Philly guy, which you should know by
it's
now.
Myles Murphy for me, the first round pick from last year. He was a guy I was very high on in terms of I knew he was raw. I knew that he had a lot of work to put in, but I really liked the fundamentals of his game and his size and his speed and the impact that I thought he could have. He was bad, right? Like he's been bad to date. And I think that there's still a lot that needs to be kind of figured out in his game for him to really step up and be an impact player for this team, who is obviously like very thirsty for defensive line talent, right? With Trey Hendrickson and the issues they've had getting a contract in place with him, to Shamar Stewart not getting a deal done until like last week. This team needs impact players on that defensive line. Chris Jenkins as well was a guy I really liked last year who also looked really bad. This defensive line for the Bengals could cost them the season, right? Like you're talking about a team with Super Bowl talent on offense, some really intriguing pieces on defense, but without that defensive line coming together, they won't make it, right? And that's kind of what happened last year. So I want to see Myles Murphy. I want to see Chris Jenkins and Shamar Stewart too. But Myles Murphy, again, just because he was a guy I was high on, I obviously want to be right in my predictions, and I'd love to see him step up. And that kind of starts tonight.
That's why you don't let DJ Reader walk out that door. It's our guy.
Yeah,
but
that's a great point. I mean, honestly, I think the Eagles are really easy to pick out guys for, just because they have a lot of young talent now on that defense. But I mean, is it Makuba for you?
Yeah, I just want to see him run around and have some fun out there. I think we're touching on this in a future segment. Maybe we're not. But Cooper DeJean did not, or you called it Dijon or whatever last episode, right? But no, sure. Cooper DeJean did not have a very good preseason last year, and it wasn't a huge sample size. But in general, you don't want to take too much away, especially from the preseason of players on teams like the Eagles, where with that roster and the talent that they have, what you see in August is not a representation of what you see from September through January, as far as what they're going to be putting out on the field schematically, what they're trying to do with their players. So I want to see Makuba out there, see if he can make some plays, but it's more of a pure eye test play for me to see if he can, maybe stick his nose in there, has a smaller type of safety in the run game, make a couple of hits, don't miss any tackles, things like that. But I'm not getting too rung up on whether or not he made any big plays in the secondary, because again, I think we saw, especially with the talent on that Eagles team, don't worry about the individual performance in August, because when they get to games that matter and they're surrounded by that elite talent pretty much at every level, and they're executing that scheme and that weekly game plan, it's a different beast. So I just want to see from a pure eye test perspective how someone like that looks in the preseason.
I think he's going to look great. I think he's another guy that is going to go on the field and we're going to go, oh yeah, no, he's really good. And the Eagles got another steal.
Well, I've been saying that one. So
yeah. The other game tonight is 10 p.m. Raiders Seahawks. This one, I'll give it to the Raiders. I'm a little more intrigued with what the Raiders have in this game to watch. And it's because they have 3 rookies that I think are kind of interesting. So Tonka Hemingway, just a behemoth defensive interior guy. Can he prove that he's more than that? I don't know, but I'm excited to see if he can be. I think Darian Porter, I talked about pretty much ad nauseum to this point, but he's a guy that I really liked his athletic ability. And while I think he's extremely raw at corner and doesn't really have the technique down, he's just such a good athlete that I think it shows on the field at times, right? And we saw that in college at Iowa State. Can we actually see it in the NFL? Is he actually going to look like a different kind of player at the NFL level? Because it's funny, the Seahawks, who they're playing, have another guy, similar kind of conversation with Nick Emenwari, where it's like a guy that physically is just so superior to other guys that are on the field. But in my opinion, I didn't really think Nick Emenwari was like a great football player. I think the difference between those two players is Darian Porter was a receiver for most of his college career and only played 1 year of corner, like truly, where Nick Emenwari, I think, played like 4 or 5 years at safety and still looked kind of raw in my eyes.
Yeah, those are good ones. I'll just keep going down the list. I think Dante Thornton for the Raiders. I want to see what the hubbub is about there. Again, height, weight, speed guy. You can't really take much away from that offense in Tennessee for the Volunteers there. So he enters the NFL as kind of a raw not full route tree type of guy, but 6'5", runs in the 4.3s, and it's legitimate. He is that big. He is that fast. But because can everything else come together? They've been saying that he's getting first team snaps and working his way into that lineup and making plays. So I want to see it. I want to see it I want to see it tonight.
Good call out. I mean, I think receiver is the position that has historically translated from preseason to the NFL. Like, it's like when guys at receiver look like difference makers, some guys like maybe you never heard of, like a Puka Nacua, or guys that, even if they have more minor success. I think Jacoby Myers may have been one of those players at one point in time where it's like all of a sudden they go from kind of like you've heard of their name, but you don't really expect them to break out. And then all of a sudden they're in the preseason and they're just torching dudes. So that could definitely be one.
Don't forget Victor Cruz.
Victor Cruz, man. How could I being in New York? But there are, staying with the receiver position, I think it's a good transition to then go into like Terry McLaurin and what's going on there. So Terry McLaurin still doesn't have a contract, has demanded a trade from the Commanders. It sounds like that's not going to be granted, right? They're going to try to keep him. What's going on? Like, how do we think this is going to end up affecting his season? Us as fantasy managers, like, how are we dealing with this?
So there have been a few players who have requested trades this season. The odds of McLaurin actually getting that wish granted aren't zero, but they're pretty darn low. The only reason they aren't zero is because he is 30 now. And so a team may be willing, or the Commanders may be willing to part ways with a player of that age because they are reluctant to give them a long-term deal versus someone who, say, is 26 years old and requesting a trade from their team. But with that said, given the young quarterback there, given that you have Jaden Daniels and you want to surround him with playmaking receivers, make his life easier and keep that environment quarterback friendly, I think it's mostly all posturing. A deal is going to get done. They're going to yell at each other, get pissed off. And then over the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks, it'll get done and he'll get on the field. They're not paying the quarterback a lot of money. He's on a rookie deal. So, you work out a contract structure to where you're ideally and realistically tied to McLaurin for this year and next. And then if there's a drop off thereafter, you can get out of that contract in 2027 and beyond. It's typically how these things are going to go, or how they do go. And that's how I think this one's going to ultimately end up, despite all the noise and the back and forth, which is just becoming more commonplace in the NFL.
I do think it's a hard position to be in for both sides, right? Because you look at a deal like the DK Metcalf deal, where he got $132 million on a 4-year deal, $33 million per year. And you ask yourself, I think it's very, an easy argument to make that Terry McLaurin has been more productive over the last couple of years than Metcalf has been, right? Like, I think it's probably they're in a similar tier, but maybe McLaurin has been more productive. The difference is it's a 3-year age difference where DK Metcalf still has prime years left in him, and you're not sure if McLaurin does, right? And, I think I go to a Calvin Ridley kind of deal that he signed last year at 28 years old, 4 years, $92 million. $23 million per year. Can he get a deal like that? I think he's probably shooting for more. And I think that's probably what the holdup is he probably wants to be closer to the DK Metcalf deal than the Calvin Ridley deal. I think ultimately something fair is somewhere in between. I'm looking at DJ Moore, who got $110 million over 4 years. I think that's realistic for him, and that would put him at 9th highest paid receiver in the NFL. But, I think to your point, teams are really reluctant to pay players at that age those long-term deals. But you have the rookie quarterback contract. I feel like you just kind of need to do it, and you need to suck it up and pray that it works out. 3-4 years from now, you can get out of it, and that's when you have to pay Daniels anyway. Like, I think it makes sense, and I think you do it. You had kind of like put some shade on maybe another situation that's happening, and I'm just going to guess that you were talking about Micah Parsons and what's happening there with the Cowboys. That's another one that's kind of interesting for fantasy managers, because if you're playing all 22, edge is the 3rd highest ranked position in the game. It's really like more tied for 2nd with receiver. It's just as important. And Micah is arguably the most, the highest draftable player outside of any of the quarterbacks. Like, you would potentially take him 1st overall if it wasn't for the quarterbacks, right? So a player of that caliber and potentially missing out on a whole year, do you hold off on drafting him, right? Like, do you just say,
No, no, I
like
don't
I'd
hold off
rather
on drafting him.
I would rather have Jamar Chase, or I would rather have, like, if you're in that situation, right, where you're drafting Parsons or somebody else, do you go somewhere else?
No, I don't go anywhere else. I still don't. But we have precedents for Micah Parsons sitting out a year of football for not getting paid enough. It's happened before. Yeah, newsflash. The high-end players at certain schools in 2020 played in that 2020 COVID season because they got paid. Micah didn't because he didn't get paid enough. Okay, that's what it ultimately comes down to. So yeah, there's precedent. Okay, for Micah Parsons sitting out a season. With that said, doubt that's going to happen. Cowboys ultimately own his rights for the next 3 years when you consider the franchise tag options available as well. It's just that Jerry Jones is just a stubborn fool at this point in the game, at this stage of his life, and he loves all of this attention and hoopla around, there's just a drama. He just loves it, and it's so counterproductive to winning. It's so ridiculous and stupid, but this is what he does. And then he's going to likely, he's going to cave. They did it with Dak Prescott. They gave it to Ezekiel Elliott. They do this all the time. It's really stupid, but they're going to give Micah Parsons a deal that makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, and it would be deservedly so. The Cowboys defense with Micah Parsons not on the field was literally the worst defense by EPA per play in the entire NFL. With Micah Parsons, they were first. Okay,
Oh my
he's
gosh.
literally that freaking good. He's that much of an impactful player, and so yes, they're going to ultimately get it done. They're going to get it done, but the drama doesn't help. And the thing is, Micah, not that he loves this too, but he has no problem getting his hands dirty and playing this game too. He'll go onto Twitter. He can play the media game, his podcasts with Barstool or Bleacher Report or whatever it is. He has no problem getting his hands dirty either. And I don't think Jerry Jones is quite used to that. But at the end of the day, this is a 26-year-old. He's the regardless of the debate, Parsons, Garrett, Watt, whatever you want to say, fine. Whichever name of those three you want to put number one, fine. Micah Parsons is the best pass rusher in the NFL at the age of 26 and under, and it's really not close. So a deal is going to get done. You don't trade away that type of player. You don't let that type of player go. And so it's ultimately going to get done. And this is all going to be a giant waste of time that ultimately hurts the product on the field. But Jerry Jones doesn't care, and the Cowboys have to suffer again. But then somehow they'll blame Dak for it. So, and round we go. But it'll ultimately get done because you don't trade away 26-year-old franchise cornerstone type of players like this.
So do you know what's crazy? Because when
the whole thing, yes.
Parsons was drafted 11th overall.
I think 11th overall because the Giants trade back.
It was 11 or 12. Yeah. I can't remember. It was 11 or 12. His deal is 4 years, $17 million. Okay. Abdul Carter, who this year was drafted, what was it? 3rd overall, 2nd overall, whatever it was, is making $45 million. Like multiples of what Micah Parsons is making. So like, considering that, think about how underpaid Micah Parsons has been in his NFL career. Absolutely absurd. And I think you're right. It's also funny because I think Jerry Jones is potentially the worst negotiator in football as well, because he goes through these processes and then he gives the player $5 million a year more than the next highest paid player at the position, like he did Dak. And I'm like, what were you even negotiating at this point? Like, you just got railed, right?
I don't think he is negotiating. I think he strings it out for views, and in his mind, the valuation of the franchise goes up by more than $5 million per year when he does this, by all the talk and all the drama and all the cameras.
Maybe he's a genius. Maybe you should stop complaining.
Yeah. I wake up on Sundays and I watch the valuation of my favorite team's franchise to see if it went up or down, and that's how I determine if it was a good NFL Sunday.
If you're a Packer fan with stock, makes sense. So if I had to make a prediction, considering Jerry Jones's negotiating strategy, I think he gets $43 million a year for 5 years, which would put him at a lot more than any other player.
I think
Like,
it's
he's
4.
going to get paid.
I think it's 4 because
yeah.
I think if Micah, because I think if you're Micah, you would ideally want like a 3-year extension perhaps, because you want another bite at the apple when you're 29 to sign a big deal as opposed to 30.
See, I hate that strategy. I like the Mahomes strategy. Like, get a 5-10 year deal, whatever it is you can get, and just have 3 different opt-outs in there for yourself. Like, why wouldn't you do that?
Jerry can't wrap his mind around opt-outs and all that stuff, and neither can Steven. They what's that? No, they're not going to. Mike is going to get whatever he wants at the end of the day. That's just what's going to happen. Mulugeta and Parsons are gonna get what they want. They're they just have to wait out Jerry and his little games. And I feel like the audience is tired of me. I sound like I'm complaining, but like I'm really just saying what's happening. It is what it is. I mean, Jerry's just enjoying the circus, and Mike is like, just give me my damn deal so I can play football. And eventually it all gets done because deadlines spur action.
Right. Okay. Well, I wanted to provide an update to the people on the first ever 16-team draft that's currently happening. It's still happening. It's been so much fun. But I had made a promise that I would give somebody a shout out, and it's Orlando with the Ultra Dragons. And I'll be honest, man, I'm looking at his team right now. I think he has the best team in this, and I'm not trying to suck up to him, right? So that I can get like a trade done later. Like, if I look at this dude's team, I don't see a weakness at any position. He also is the first person to draft a kicker, which is wild, but he got the one kicker that's actually like worth doing it in Brandon Aubrey. So like, shout out to that guy, right? Like, shout out to Orlando, doing a good job. He said I've been kind of like holding out on saying his name on the pod. So I wanted to give him a little shout out. Ray, like, what is your strategy? Because like, you and Bobby have very different strategies than me. And it's been really interesting to watch it play out. And I don't know if you've looked at Bobby's team at all, but he's like drafted like 4 positions total, and he's just like loading them. It's very strange.
So when you're dealing with full rosters and you get to 16-team leagues, now scarcity really starts to get into play, like really so. And you don't necessarily feel it in like the first 7 or 8 rounds, because in round 7, you might be drafting a Dafe Owe or someone like, you still drafting like a good edge rusher or like a good corner or one of the best safeties. And you're like, this isn't so bad. This isn't so hard. And then you're going to try to find a good second offensive tackle by like round 12. And you're going to realize that they're all gone. And you're going to also realize that most of the starting NFL quarterbacks are all gone, if not all of them by now. And so you don't have a backup quarterback. You may not have a backup center. You might have one starting center on your roster, and that's it. It's just simple math. There's 32 of them, and there's 16 teams in this league. So if you don't get 2, or if someone else gets 3 and they try to load up, someone is going to be missing out. So the scarcity really comes into play here. So what I did was I try not to change my overall team building strategy too much, because if I go away from who I am and what makes me good at this, then I'm not going to be at my best.
Whoa. You're
Relax.
good at this?
So if you go to the plate, all right, with an approach that's not yours, right? You try to be something you're not. You try to deviate from what you do. You're not going to be as good at it as you are at what you do. So I'm still going to target. I really just targeted best player available and just left it at that. I think by round like somewhere in the mid-teens, I did look up and was like, maybe I should take a quarterback. And there was literally none left. So a second quarterback, that is. We all took quarterbacks pretty much in the first round or 2. Because again, all 22, it's real football. You're going to take quarterbacks early. But I didn't reach. I don't reach. I think that's the name of the game here, is I just didn't reach. So if I liked a cornerback and I had 3 already, I'm going to go ahead and take Tyson Campbell as my 4th cornerback late in the draft, because I think there's still some upside there. Who knows how they integrate Travis Hunter into that defense and how that maybe makes some of the matchups a bit easier for someone like Campbell on the outside in certain spots of the game. We'll see how that plays out. So I try not to load up or change too much of what I'm doing by loading up at one spot because of position scarcity versus another. I'm just going to draft the best player I deem available at positions that I deem are valuable. I like who I like, and I'm going to go from there. And I'll fill holes later. I'll take a rookie quarterback in the next class or whatever it is if I have to. Or, there's injuries. I mean, there was 40 something, nearly 50 starting quarterbacks to start a game in the NFL a year or two ago. So that's going to happen too. There's natural attrition that you have to be ready for and take advantage of. So it's not just all about the draft in 16-team leagues. You're also going to have to utilize free agency. And at a certain point, I'd rather not reach in the draft for a certain position and then just roll the dice to take my chance in free agency when the time comes for me to fill a spot that needs to be filled.
That's a great point because I think in a lot of leagues that I've participated in all 22, people are pretty laissez-faire about using blind bid dollars. Like they're just kind of I'll use them. Sometimes I don't need to. I can typically go and find somebody I can start. I think this is going to be a lot different now with 16 teams. I think people are going to be spending a lot. And for example, right, if you have one center and your center goes down with an injury, how much is the right amount to pay for his backup, right? You might have to put your entire budget on the backup center if you want to compete, because you will lose the game if you don't have a starting center. So I think it's interesting because you also brought up the quarterback thing. You only have one. I ended up getting a couple guys later. I think in the 18th and 19th round, I doubled up with Fields and Richardson, who total crapshoot, right? Could end up being total bust. And in a year from now, I also need a backup quarterback. But I think it's an interesting approach, the one you're taking. And I actually was leaning towards going that route because if Caleb Williams gets hurt, who is your quarterback that you have no chance of competing, right? Even if you have, if I go from Patrick Mahomes as my starter to Anthony Richardson, there's a good chance I'm not competing, right? And I become instantly one of the worst teams in the league. So is it just better not to have a backup quarterback, which guarantees you basically the first pick in the draft next year where you can get a new quarterback? I was thinking about that approach. I honestly don't think it's terrible. I think if anything, just make sure you have Caleb Williams backup maybe, so that if he gets hurt, you don't look like a jerk not having a quarterback. But yeah, it's very interesting approaches that people are taking. And it's I kind of took, I guess, a semi-similar one to you where I tried to get the best player available, but I also was trying not to be super weak at any individual position. I didn't want to look at tight end and be I just don't have a tight end. That's what it is. I'm not gonna have a tight end. I think I have somebody at each position that I feel comfortable with, but because I did that, it's okay, I don't really also have a strong position, right? I don't have a position where I'm looking and going, I'm three deep at defensive interior. It's no, I have one guy and the other two are I'm praying it works out. Bobby took a very different approach, which was, I said, he just went I have 4 quarterbacks, I have 5 edge rushers, I have 5 defensive interiors and 5 receivers. Those are the most valuable positions. Somebody's going to need one and they're going to have to come to me begging, right? I think that was the position Bobby took, which is also super interesting. His position may be that maybe he doesn't win this year, right? It would be pretty hard for him to take that approach and also be super competitive. But when somebody needs something, they're going to have to overspend with Bobby, right? And he's going to be give me all of your assets and I'm going to take it to the bank. And in 2 years from now, maybe I'm just that much better than everybody else because I've had so many more shots at draft picks, at high draft picks, and I've built this team up the way I want to. It's interesting. And it's also showing why the 16-team leagues are so different than the 12-team, because I think there are so many different strategies you can take. And also just the valuation process is so much different. So go sign up, go do a 16-team league. They are out there. I have been in talks with a few people that are trying to start them up themselves as well. So in the next few days, you may see additional leagues pop up. I would definitely say join one. Make sure you and your league mates know how many picks need to be made and what the time per pick should be, because the season will come up on you very quickly if you don't have it done right. So, one strategy could be, if you are running up to that, do the first 30 rounds and then have everybody simulate the rest, right? Everybody has the same odds of getting players, right? Because the system will do it automatically. But at least you get to compete for a year and you have your starter, so you'll feel good about it. Ray, that's all I really.
Well, we're knee deep in the preseason, so we just went through a few games. Hey, who are we interested in seeing? Who are we going to watch when these games are on TV? But does it really matter? Does the preseason matter, overall? And it's
I think so.
It kind of doesn't. It kind of doesn't. I don't think it does.
Tell me why.
Just look at I'm talking specifically for rookies now, okay? Like there's some translatability, but not really. So Nate Wiggins last year was the highest graded rookie cornerback in the preseason, a 90 plus overall defensive grade. He did finish as the fifth highest graded rookie corner with a 77 or excuse me 70.7 overall grade, 28th overall among all cornerbacks in the NFL. So top 30 corner in the league. Good. You saw the flash in the preseason. For year one, that's very good. Quinyon Mitchell, 78 overall preseason grade, 79 coverage, 72 overall in the regular season. That's great. But then you go down the list and add some other positions. Tyler Guyton was fantastic in the preseason, the fourth highest overall offensive lineman in the preseason last year, and had a really poor season as a rookie in Dallas. Granted, everything kind of turned into a disaster there, and the offense was a mess, but clearly no translation there. Dominic Pooney was the highest rookie guard in the regular season last year and one of the highest guards overall at over an 80 overall grade for the 49ers and was just okay. I mean, he was above average, 70 in the preseason last year, was just fine, right? But really took off in the regular season. Joe Alt, Zach Frazier, both had kind of decent above average preseasons and pretty good regular seasons, were actually better in the regular season than the preseason. So when the competition stepped up, they performed better. And then for receivers in the regular season, Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, and Marvin Harrison Jr. First, second, third, and fourth overall grade-wise among those with enough snaps. And in the preseason, they were 9th, 10th, and then 2 DNPs, respectively. So not really a lot of translation. I think you just don't want to see them perform poorly. But then on the flip side, if you go to the other side of the ball, I kind of touched on it earlier, Cooper DeJean was just overall bad in the preseason, 51 grading overall, for less than 50 overall coverage grade, and yet ended up as a top 3 graded defensive rookie overall among any position among rookies in the regular season, and was obviously a huge hit for the Eagles and for those who drafted him in all 22. So again, it's kind of a case by case basis based on how they're being used in the preseason. What they're surrounded by, how many snaps they get, but don't take it too seriously. Don't, it might sound counterintuitive, but don't just jump on the very next morning to see what the grades are and to determine how well these guys did and what that means for them in the regular season. I would just trust the eye test more than anything else for a specific player in the preseason, and maybe just instead of those overall grades, just kind of see how they did in certain aspects. Did this edge rusher get a lot of pressures? Did he get 3 pressures in 12 snaps in his first, bout of action? And if so, do we think that could translate? Does that fit with his profile? I think that's how you have to look at it, as opposed to a strict sort of, hey, highly graded in the preseason, so now I'm going to move him up my board in a rookie draft or something, or rely on him in the regular season. I think you're setting yourself up for some failure there if you do that. So don't take it too seriously. Enjoy it for what it is. We're all excited for football, but don't hitch your wagon to some of these preseason performances too tightly, because you might get burned.
I'd love to know if anybody out there has done any more extensive studies on preseason and how it affects results. So if you have, hit us in the comments. Let us know what you found, because I think it'd be really interesting to explore that more. What you said makes sense to me, but I also wonder, I guess, 2 things. One, while maybe great preseason performance doesn't indicate that you're going to have great regular season performance, is the opposite true? So if somebody shows up and does terrible, does that indicate that they'll likely be bad, right? Is that something that is true? And I'd be very curious to know that. And I think the other thing is, there are positions in the NFL like offensive lineman or center, where it is so predicated on what's happening around you too. It's a group project almost, right? Where half of what you do is determined by good communication and the guys next to you knowing what they're supposed to be doing. So a position like any of the offensive line positions, I think it's going to be hard for them no matter what. It's going to be more challenging for them because these guys haven't had a ton of time to play together, right? So if you and I have only played together for 2 weeks, we're probably going to look pretty poor when we go out on the field. But week 8 of the regular season, when we've been together for now maybe 12 weeks or 16 weeks, maybe I start to look a lot better, right? So like for that position group, I almost weigh it a little bit less. But those individual positions, to your point, where it's like a lot about the eye test, like I would look at receiver, I'd look at corner, I would look at running back, and I'd say to myself, like, this is very much just like, do they look like they fit in at the NFL level? Like, is their athleticism, is their skill set NFL skill set? I think you can probably see a lot of that with the eye test for those positions. I think linebacker is another example of like, so much of the surrounding stuff is important. So like, it's such a mental game for them too, that I'm not sure they're going to ever look that good in the preseason. And if they do, like, I don't know, maybe it does translate. Maybe it just shows that they'll be uber successful. But I would love somebody, if they've had that research to point it out to us, because I do think it's an interesting model. And I don't agree with you. I would say, like, get excited, think about it a lot.
I said get excited. I said get excited.
Like, bet on everything. Like, totally go draft the guy that does really well. Now. No, I mean, like, draft the guy that you think does well. Like, bet on his talent in a draft.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a betting podcast. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
What else, Ray? What else? What other words of wisdom do you have for us, man?
Comments. Words of wisdom. Do I look that old now that I just have like words of wisdom to impart upon our audience?
Basically, it's all that gray.
Yeah, no, just words of wisdom. Sign up for all 22 if you haven't yet already. You see down below, if you're on YouTube, you got the QR code, or go to all-22.com or download the app. We're going through a couple of app upgrades too. Made a couple of app enhancements over the last week as well. Just again, getting everything ready for the season. It's going to be here before you know it. So get your friends, sign up at all-22.com. Again, it's literally as if the NFL just threw everybody, all players, into a pool and had a startup draft. You're building a team, a franchise from scratch. And again, how good can you be as a general manager? The only platform out there like it, including offensive linemen. Sign up, get your friends to do the same, start a league, and be a part of the most realistic fantasy experience out there.
Couldn't have said it better, Ray. Wow, that was fantastic. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X at all22_PFF. And do what Ray said. Go sign up at all-22.com. Give us a review as well wherever you watch or listen to your podcast. Have a great day.